Have you ever trusted someone so deeply that you couldn't even imagine they'd hurt you? That was me. My name is Michael Turner, and until a few months ago, I believed I had the perfect life, a loving wife, a beautiful home, and years of hard work behind me. But one single night, everything I had built, everything I believed in, went up in flames. Literally. That night, I stood on the front lawn of my burning house, watching the fire eat away at every memory I'd ever made. The warmth of the flames hit my face, but all I could feel was cold. My wife, Linda, stood beside me, crying, or pretending to. Her tears glistened in the orange glow, but deep down, something felt wrong. Something in her eyes. It wasn't grief. It was something else. The fire department rushed in, neighbors gathered around, and I just stood there, numb, empty, lost. I kept thinking, how did this happen? The fire chief came to me and said it looked like an accident. Maybe a short circuit. Maybe a candle left burning. But I knew my wife. She was careful about everything. Almost too careful. Over the next few days, everything felt blurry. Police reports, insurance agents, temporary hotels. Linda was there, always holding my arm, saying, "We'll rebuild, Michael. It's just a house." But there was something off in her voice. Too calm, too composed. And then, something strange happened. While she was taking a shower one morning, I picked up her phone. Something I had never done in our 25 years of marriage. I wasn't suspicious, not yet. I just wanted to check an email about the insurance claim. But as soon as I opened the messages, my hands froze. There it was, a text from an unknown number. "It's done. You'll get your share once the money clears." My heart stopped. At first, I thought maybe it was a scam message, something random. But then I saw the previous chats, plans, instructions, even details about the fire. The words insurance, timing, make sure he's asleep were all there, staring back at me like ghosts from hell. I couldn't breathe. My wife, the woman I loved, the woman who stood beside me for half my life, had planned to destroy my home. For money. For greed. For reasons I couldn't even understand yet. I remember walking out of that hotel room, numb, shaking, and looking at the reflection of my burned house in my mind. The walls that had once heard our laughter now only echoed betrayal. I felt like my soul had been set on fire, just like my house. I didn't confront her that day. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just looked at her differently, quietly, observing every word, every smile, every lie. She didn't know I knew. And that gave me something I hadn't felt in weeks. Control. That night, I sat in my car outside the ruins of my home. I stared at the blackened remains, the ashes blowing in the wind. Somewhere inside, I whispered to myself, "You burned my house, Linda. But you have no idea what you just started." Because that night, as the wind carried the ashes of my past, I made a silent promise. I wasn't going to let her win. I was going to rise from those ashes, and she was going to fall in them. People always say you never realize how perfect something was until it's gone. And maybe they're right. Because before everything fell apart, I thought I had it all. Linda and I met 28 years ago in Chicago, back when I was still working double shifts at a small construction firm, dreaming of starting my own business. She worked at a local diner, bright smile, soft voice, the kind of person who made everyone feel seen. I used to go there for coffee, not because I liked the coffee, but because she was behind the counter. We married 2 years later. Not in a grand ceremony, just a quiet courthouse wedding, a few friends, a cheap ring, and a promise that we'd build our life together, brick by brick. And we did. I started my own home renovation company. It wasn't easy, but Linda was my anchor. Every time I came home exhausted, she'd have dinner ready, music playing softly in the background, and that gentle smile that made the world feel right again. We bought our first home after 10 years, a modest 2-story house with white walls, a small porch, and a cherry tree in the front yard. That house, it was more than just wood and walls. It was our story. Every corner had a memory. The kitchen where we danced on Friday nights. The living room where we laughed through old sitcoms. The backyard where she planted roses that somehow bloomed even when she forgot to water them. For a long time, everything seemed perfect. We didn't have kids, but we had each other. I thought that was enough. But then, little things started to change. At first, I thought it was just age, or maybe stress. She'd get distant sometimes, quiet during dinners, lost in thought. I'd ask, "You okay, honey?" And she'd smile and say, "Just tired." But it wasn't tiredness. It was something else. She started spending more time on her phone. At night, she'd sit on the couch scrolling endlessly, typing quickly, then locking the screen whenever I walked in. I remember one evening, I caught her staring out the window for a long time, her face blank, her hands clenched together. When I asked what was wrong, she said she missed the old days, when life was simpler. I didn't think much of it. I was too focused on work. Business was booming, and I was proud of what we had built. We were finally financially stable. Maybe that's what made me blind. I thought security meant happiness. Then she started talking about insurance. She said, "Mike, we should increase the coverage on the house. You never know what could happen." I remember laughing. "What could possibly happen, Linda? This place is built like a rock." She smiled faintly and said, "Still, better safe than sorry." I didn't question it. After all, she handled most of the paperwork, the bills, the finances. I trusted her completely. Around that time, she also began suggesting we upgrade. New furniture, new appliances, new decor. I thought she just wanted to make the house look nicer, but now I realize she was preparing it, making sure everything looked expensive enough to justify a big payout. The cracks were there, I just didn't see them. One evening, I came home early from work. I remember hearing her on the phone, her voice low and nervous. She said, "No, not yet. He doesn't know." When she saw me, she jumped, hung up, and smiled awkwardly. "Oh, hey honey, you're home early." I asked who she was talking to. She said, "Just a friend from the charity club." I believed her. Because that's what love does. It blinds you in the most dangerous way. I remember one Sunday morning, we were sitting on the porch, sipping coffee. She looked at me and said, "You ever think about what life would be like if we started over? Like, brand new?" I laughed. "What do you mean, like move to another state?" She just shrugged. Maybe even start from nothing again. At the time, I thought she was being philosophical. But now, looking back, she wasn't talking about us starting over. She was talking about herself. Those little moments, they were warnings I never noticed. Signs I never read. Because when you love someone that deeply, you don't look for lies. You look for reasons to keep believing the truth. And that's exactly what destroyed me. Because while I was dreaming about our future, she was planning my downfall, one careful step at a time. After the fire, I tried to convince myself that it was just a terrible accident, that somehow fate had played a cruel trick on us. But deep down, something didn't sit right. The more I thought about it, the more the pieces refused to fit together. The timing, the insurance, the sudden changes in her behavior. And that text message, "It's done. You'll get your share once the money clears." Those words haunted me like a slow-burning echo I couldn't silence. I started paying attention, really paying attention. When the insurance agents came to inspect the damage, Linda was strangely composed. She cried at all the right moments, but there was no real grief behind her eyes. It was performance, and she was good at it. She handed them every document, every receipt, every policy update with perfect precision. Too perfect. One night, as she slept, I went through her drawer, something I never imagined I'd do. I found a small black folder tucked beneath old receipts. Inside were copies of our insurance papers, but something was off. Her signature appeared not once, but 3 times. Different policies, updated within the last year, all under her name as the primary beneficiary. That's when it hit me. The house wasn't the only thing insured. My company, my car, even my life. She'd made herself the center of it all. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at her as she slept peacefully, like a stranger wearing my wife's face. My hands trembled. My chest felt heavy, like I couldn't breathe. 25 years of marriage, love, and laughter, all reduced to one horrifying truth. I was just part of her plan. But there was one question I couldn't shake. Why? We had enough money. We had comfort. What could possibly make her do this? A few days later, I got my answer. I met an old friend for coffee. Mark, a former business partner. We hadn't spoken in months, not since he left the company. He looked uncomfortable when he saw me. "Mike," he said slowly, "I wasn't sure if I should tell you this, but Linda's been talking to a guy I used to work with, a lawyer. She mentioned something about wanting to dissolve your business assets quietly. I thought you knew." My stomach dropped. That's when I realized it wasn't just about the insurance. She wanted everything. The house, the company, the future I'd spent decades building. Every smile, every hug, every "I love you" had been a mask hiding her motives. I felt sick. That night, I drove to the remains of our house again. The smell of smoke had faded, but the memory was still sharp. I walked through the ashes, my boots crunching over the debris. I looked at the half-burned family photos, the melted frames, the scorched wedding ring I'd found near the fireplace. The same fireplace where we used to sit together every Christmas. That's when the tears came. Not out of sadness, but out of disbelief. How could someone you love that deeply betray you so completely? When I got back to the hotel, Linda was sitting on the bed, smiling. She said, "I talked to the insurance guy today. The claim's going through. We'll get the money soon." Her voice was casual, like she was talking about groceries, not the ruins of our life. I looked at her and said quietly, "You really think we can just start over?" She smiled faintly. "Of course. We'll rebuild. Maybe even somewhere new. You'll see, this might be a blessing in disguise." A blessing. Those words echoed in my mind long after she fell asleep. That's when I knew she had no remorse, no guilt, no love left for me. Just a cold, calculated heart waiting to cash in on my destruction. And for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel broken anymore. I felt something else. Something colder, stronger. Revenge. Because if Linda thought she could burn down my life and walk away smiling, she was about to learn what real fire felt like. They say revenge is dangerous, that it consumes you from the inside out. Maybe that's true. But when you've lost everything, the pain becomes a kind of fuel. 4 weeks after the fire, I played my role perfectly. The broken husband, the devastated man trying to move on. I stopped asking questions. I smiled when Linda smiled. I nodded when she spoke about rebuilding. But inside, I wasn't rebuilding anything. I was preparing. I knew I couldn't confront her without proof. She was too clever, too calm. If I accused her, she'd twist the story, make me look delusional, and walk away with everything. So, I did what she never expected me to do. I got smarter than her. I started with her phone records. I knew someone who worked at the local service provider, a guy I'd helped years ago with a renovation. I told him I was worried about a stalker, and within a day, he sent me a list of all outgoing calls and messages from Linda's number. That's where I found him, the lawyer Mark had mentioned. I contacted him, pretending to be an interested client. We met for coffee at a small cafe downtown. He didn't recognize me. I'd grown a beard since the fire, lost some weight. He introduced himself, and as we talked about property transfers, he let something slip. He said, "Your wife's plan sounds solid. Once the settlement clears, she'll have enough to start fresh. You're in good hands." My blood turned to ice. That's when I smiled, shook his hand, and said, "Thank you. You've been very helpful." He didn't even realize he'd just confirmed everything. After that, I started collecting every piece of evidence, every document, every message. I printed copies of her insurance applications, recorded our conversations on my phone, even installed a small camera in my car where she often made her secret calls. But I didn't just want to expose her, I wanted her to feel what I felt. I wanted her to know what it meant to lose everything you thought you had under control. So, I turned to the one place she never paid attention to, my company. Even after the fire, I still owned 51% of the shares. Quietly, I began moving assets into a separate account under my own name, one she couldn't access. I also contacted our lawyer, a different one, and updated my will, removing her completely. Then, I contacted the insurance company. I told them I had new information about the fire. They reopened the case. Linda didn't know any of this. To her, everything was going perfectly. She'd already started talking about moving to Florida, about leaving behind the cold. She even looked happier, freer. One night, she said, "Mike, I've been thinking, maybe we should sell the company. Start fresh somewhere warm. You've worked enough for one lifetime." I smiled. "You're right, Linda. Maybe it's time for a new beginning." She had no idea how true those words were. For the next few days, I kept acting normal, cooking breakfast, laughing at her jokes, driving her to meetings. But every moment was part of the plan. I was gathering enough evidence to make sure when the truth came out, she couldn't deny it. Finally, when everything was in place, I made one last move. I sent all the proof, the texts, the documents, the lawyer's statement, even the audio recordings, to the insurance fraud department, anonymously. Then, I waited. 2 weeks later, I got the call. "Mr. Turner," the agent said, "we're reopening your case. We've found evidence suggesting deliberate intent. Your wife is under investigation." I didn't respond. I just stared out the window, watching the sun set behind the city skyline. The light was soft, golden, the same color as the flames that had destroyed my home. When Linda got home that evening, she was humming, carefree. She kissed my cheek and said, "They finally approved the claim, Mike. The money's coming next week." I looked at her and smiled. "Really?" I said softly. "That's great news." Because I knew something she didn't. The next time she'd hear from the insurance company, it wouldn't be to give her money. It would be to take everything back. And in that moment, for the first time since the fire, I felt peace. Not joy, not triumph, just quiet peace. Because the game she started was finally turning back on her. It was a Friday morning, quiet, cold, and strangely peaceful. The kind of morning that feels too calm, like the world is holding its breath before a storm. Linda was in the kitchen, humming while making coffee, like nothing in the world was wrong. She looked normal. But behind that normal smile, everything was about to shatter. Around 9 a.m., there was a knock on the door. She looked at me, a little confused. "Are you expecting someone?" she asked. I shrugged. "No idea." When she opened the door, 2 people in suits stood there, one from the insurance company, the other from the state investigation unit. They introduced themselves politely. "Mrs. Turner, we'd like to ask you a few questions regarding your recent insurance claim." Her smile faded instantly. She tried to play calm. "Of course, come in." I stayed quiet, leaning against the wall, watching. My heart was pounding, but my face was still. They sat at the dining table and started asking routine questions at first, about the night of the fire, where she was, what she remembered. She answered smoothly at first. But then, the questions got specific. "Mrs. Turner, can you explain why multiple insurance policies were updated in your name just weeks before the fire?" She blinked. I don't remember that. "And these messages, sent from your phone number, discussing payment and timing. Can you explain those?" Her eyes widened. She looked at me, searching for help. But I didn't move. She started to shake her head. No, that's not. Someone must have hacked my phone." The investigator placed a printed page in front of her. A transcript of the message chain. Her name, her number, the dates. Everything. Her lips trembled. "This isn't real. Michael, tell them. Tell them this is crazy." I looked at her for a long moment. Then I said quietly, "I already did, Linda. For 25 years, I told everyone you were the most honest person I knew." Her face drained of color. The investigator continued, "Mrs. Turner, we'll need to ask you to come with us for further questioning. The claim is being frozen pending investigation." Linda stood up, panicking. "Wait, this is a mistake. Michael, say something." Her voice cracked. She reached for me, but I stepped back. That's when she realized. I wasn't going to save her. Not this time. Her hands dropped. Her eyes filled with tears, real ones this time. "You did this," she whispered. I nodded slowly. "No, Linda, you did this. You burned everything we had." I just showed them the ashes. They escorted her outside. The neighborhood watched. The same neighbors who once admired our marriage, our house, our so-called perfect life. As she got into the car, she turned and looked at me through the window. For a brief second, I saw the woman I'd once loved, the one who made coffee for me every morning, who used to dance barefoot in the kitchen. But that woman was gone. When the car pulled away, I walked back inside. The silence was deafening. The smell of her perfume still lingered in the air, mixed with a faint trace of burnt wood that never really left my clothes. I sat at the table, the same one we used to share breakfast on, and let out a deep breath. Was I happy? No. Relieved? Maybe. It wasn't victory I felt. It was something heavier, like grief wearing a mask of justice. That night, I drove to the ruins of our old home one last time. The moonlight reflected off the blackened bricks, like a graveyard of memories. I stood there, staring at the place where everything began and ended. In my pocket, I still had our wedding ring, the one I'd found in the ashes weeks ago. I turned it over in my hand and whispered, "You wanted to burn everything, Linda. And you did. But you forgot something. Fire can destroy, but it can also purify." I dropped the ring into the dirt and walked away. Because for the first time in my life, I didn't feel trapped by her lies anymore. I felt free. It's been 6 months since that day. 6 months since Linda walked out of my life, and everything we built turned to smoke. The investigation went on for weeks. She tried to deny it, blame it on everyone but herself. But the truth, it doesn't stay buried forever. Eventually, her lies collapsed, one after another, until even she couldn't keep up with the story she'd built. I didn't see her again after that day. I didn't go to the hearings. I didn't want to, because by then, I had already lost enough. People think revenge feels good, that it gives you closure. But no one talks about the silence that comes after. The silence that makes you question whether it was worth it. Some nights, I still wake up from dreams of that house. The fire, the smell of smoke, the memories burning all over again. But it's not the fire outside that haunts me. It's the one that burned inside me. The anger, the betrayal, the hatred I let take over my soul. I used to think that getting even would fix the pain. That watching her world collapse would somehow make mine whole again. But standing there, watching her drive away that day, I didn't feel victorious. I felt hollow. Because the truth is, revenge doesn't rebuild what betrayal destroys. It just changes who you are in the process. For 25 years, I lived with love, trust, and hope. And for a few months, I lived with rage. But only one of those ever gave me peace. So I started rebuilding. Not the house, that was gone. But myself. I moved to a smaller town, near the lake. I bought a simple cabin. No fancy walls, no big rooms, no memories waiting to haunt me. Just quiet. And in that quiet, I found something I hadn't felt in years: peace. Sometimes, I sit by the water with a cup of coffee and watch the sunrise. And I think about Linda. Not with anger anymore, not even with sadness, just with understanding. People change. Sometimes they lose themselves in greed, in lies, in their own darkness. And sometimes, we lose ourselves trying to punish them for it. But maybe, just maybe, letting go isn't weakness. Maybe it's the only way to win. Because fire, it doesn't care what it burns. It just destroys. And I realized that if I kept holding on to the hate, I'd be burning myself too. So I forgave her, not because she deserved it, but because I deserved peace. Now, when people ask me what really happened, I just smile and say, "She burned my house down, but I built something better, myself." And that's the truth. Not every fire is meant to destroy. Some are meant to light the way forward.